You don't move your family out to the edge of nowhere just to be bothered by the same HOA nonsense you were trying to escape. That's why we bought the ranch. 17 acres of open grassland, fenced off from the world, nestled just outside city limits. No Starbucks, no leaf blower wars, no Karens, or so I thought. We moved in mid-March, right after my son Logan's 11th birthday. He's always been the kind of kid who bonds with animals before people. Quiet, thoughtful, patient. He didn't want a video game console like most kids his age. He wanted a miniature horse. So we gave him one. Not barely 3 feet tall at the ears, with a long black mane and eyes full of mischief. Logan trained him from day one, taught him to come when called, to follow hand signals, even to wear a tiny saddle. Every afternoon after school, you'd find them side by side, walking the trails like old friends. Peanut wasn't just a pet. He was family. The first few months were perfect, until Karen showed up. Technically, her name was Diane Keller, but her platinum helmet hair, blinding white sneakers, and fondness for HOA rulebooks meant she might as well have been named Karen on her birth certificate. She didn't even live on our land. She was president of the HOA for the private subdivision across the fence, those tidy rows of identical homes half a mile down the road. Somehow, she'd gotten it into her head that our ranch was part of her domain. Our first run-in, she showed up at the gate in a golf cart, clipboard in hand, demanding we paint the barn to match the community aesthetic. I laughed. I thought she was joking. "I'm serious," she said, pointing to the red-painted siding. "We prefer neutral tones. Sage, gray, eggshell. This is a working ranch," I said, "not a spa brochure." She didn't laugh. She said the HOA had historical oversight of the outer parcels and claimed our ranch fell under some outdated clause. I showed her the deed. She huffed and drove off. But from that day forward, she made it her mission to chip away at our peace. Complaints about the fencing, notes left in our mailbox about excessive animal activity, a passive-aggressive flyer about livestock safety protocols, slipped under our gate with no return address. And we didn't budge. Peanut had free reign of the property during the day, and Logan would build little obstacle courses for him in the field. We even put up hand-painted signs, "Private ranch, no trespassing." Still, Karen kept circling. And then, something strange started happening. We noticed tire tracks behind the main barn, boot prints near the far fence line. Fresh, but not ours. Peanut started acting nervous, refusing to wander past a certain point. Logan swore. He heard voices out there at night. I checked the cameras. That's nothing. Just wind, deer, and shadows. I told myself it was just our imagination. I told Logan there was nothing to worry about. But I was wrong. I was dead wrong. The thing about living on a ranch is you get used to knowing every inch of your land, every dip in the trail, every fence post, every grove of cedar. It's a rhythm, a knowing. So when something feels off, it doesn't take long to notice. It was a Tuesday morning when I found it. A torn beer can, crushed into the dirt behind our north fence line, way past where anyone had any business being. Next to it, boot prints. Not work boots, like mine. These were heavier, treaded, like hunting boots. And nearby, fresh shell casings. I bent down, picked one up. It was a .36. Not something a rancher uses lightly. Definitely not something anyone would be firing without permission. I looked up toward the tree line and felt that cold churn in my stomach. This wasn't kids messing around. Someone was hunting on my land. And then I remembered Logan, He'd been out just yesterday afternoon, walking Peanut back there. That sick feeling turned into a full-blown storm. I called my neighbor Randy. He owns the property across the creek. Ex-military, trustworthy. He drove over in 10 minutes, rifle in his truck rack, and frown already forming. "Who the hell's been hunting this close to your paddock?" he asked. "No idea," I said, holding out the casing. "You seen anything?" He shook his head. "Not a soul. But if someone's poaching this far in, they've got either brass balls or permission." That word hit me like a slap. Permission? From who? Randy and I checked the fence line. That's when we saw the latch. The gate at the far end, normally locked with a padlock I checked weekly, was wide open, not broken, unlatched. And next to it, a newly stapled sign on a wooden post. Access authorized. HOA Emergency Use Corridor. Keller. Keller. As in Diane Keller, as in Karen. She'd given access to my land. Without a word. Without asking. So stunned, I had to read the sign 3 times just to believe it. Then I took a picture, and then another, and then I ripped it down so hard I gave myself a splinter. I drove straight to her house. Didn't knock, didn't wait. She came out of her pastel-painted porch in her usual jogger set like nothing was wrong. "Oh, hi," she said, all sing-songy. "Was just about to call you, actually." "Why the hell are there hunters on my ranch?" I said, phone in hand, sign in the other. She blinked, then smiled like I'd asked if she had sugar for my coffee. "They're not hunters, they're wildlife management contractors. There's been a spike in coyotes and feral hogs this year. We decided it was time for community safety action." "We?" I said. "The HOA board, it was a closed session. For safety? On my land? It's technically in the shared, says corridor." "No, Karen, it's my fenced pasture. You don't have any right to hand out keys like candy." She got defensive. "You never attend our monthly open meetings." "That's when we discuss the encroachment protocol." "Because I don't live in your HOA." "You're adjacent," she snapped. "You benefit from our roads and drainage. You can't just hoard land while the rest of us deal with pests." I stared at her, stunned. "This isn't a neighborhood potluck, Karen. You're authorizing armed men to enter property where my 11-year-old and his miniature horse walk daily." She had the audacity to shrug. "Well, I assumed you'd train him to stay out of the woods during hunt season." That was it. I got back in my truck before I said something I'd regret. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I filed a police report, called Animal Control, sent a certified cease and desist to the HOA, even posted the gate sign with a full explanation to the community board. Some people were shocked, some shrugged. A few agreed with her. But none of that prepared me for what happened next. Because 2 days later, just before dawn, I heard it. Bang, bang, distant, echoing through the cold air. And then, Logan's scream. It was the kind of scream that burns itself into your memory. I still hear it sometimes when I close my eyes. I dropped my coffee, bolted out the front door, barefoot, heart pounding so hard I could barely see. The sound of those shots echoed over the hills, but Logan's voice was what tore through me, raw, panicked, and unrecognizable. "Dad, Dad." I sprinted across the yard toward the back pasture, where the fence line sloped into the woods. The frost still clung to the grass. But I didn't feel a thing. Only one thought ran through my head. "Please, don't let it be Logan. Please let it be anything else." When I reached the edge of the trees, I saw him, kneeling in the dirt, tears streaming down his cheeks, one arm wrapped around Peanut's neck. The little horse was on his side, legs twitching, blood pooled beneath him in the snow-dusted grass. No, No, I gasped, dropping to my knees beside them. Peanut's breathing was shallow, his eyes wide and terrified. Logan looked up at me, his face smeared with dirt and snot. "They shot him, Dad. They shot Peanut." He pointed toward the woods, shaking. "I saw them. They had rifles. I yelled, and they ran." I ripped off my flannel, tried to press it against Peanut's wound, just under the rib cage. The little guy whinnied weakly, legs kicking. My hand shook as I fumbled for my phone and dialed the vet. Then 911. The dispatcher tried to keep me calm. She failed. 20 minutes later, the sheriff's deputies arrived. Guns holstered, hands up, calm but alert. Animal control came in right after, followed by our local emergency large animal vet, Dr. Vega. Peanut was stabilized on site, barely. They loaded him onto a trailer with a transfusion IV already in. Logan rode with him, refusing to leave his side. I stayed behind, seething. The deputies followed the tracks. They led to a crude cut in the fence behind the grove. On the other side, fresh tire ruts and discarded shells, same caliber as the ones Randy and I found earlier. One of the deputies turned to me. "You said the HOA gave people access?" I handed him the photo of the sign. "Karen Keller, she authorized hunting without telling me. They trespassed, ignored the posted signs, and nearly killed my son's best friend. He looked like he wanted to curse, but kept it professional. We'll need statements. And we'll be talking to her." I nodded. "You better, because I swear, if she sets foot on my land again, we'll handle it, sir." Later that night, I got the call from Dr. Vega. "Peanut's stable," she said. "Lost a lot of blood, but Logan's presence helped. He's a tough little guy." I sank into the couch and let out the breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding all day. But peace wasn't coming anytime soon, because Karen wasn't done. When the HOA board heard about the shooting, you'd think they'd launch an emergency meeting, suspend all access rights, offer condolences at the very least. No. Instead, I got an email the next morning from Karen herself. Subject: misunderstand. "I understand there was an unfortunate incident involving your animal. Please be advised that the HOA acted within its jurisdictional rights, and we hope this doesn't cause further tension. Sincerely, the killer, HOA President." Misunderstanding? Oh, shaking. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a paperwork issue. This was criminal negligence. And if she thought a cold email would make this go away, she clearly hadn't realized yet. This time, I wasn't just angry. I was coming for her. There's a particular kind of rage that settles in your bones. Not the loud kind, not the shouting kind, the quiet kind. The kind that plans. The morning after Karen's insulting email, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, and went to war. First stop, the sheriff's office. I filed formal charges for criminal trespass and reckless endangerment. I attached photos of the shell casings, the fence cut, the unauthorized sign, and the veterinary report showing Peanut's injuries. Then I called my lawyer, a pit bull in khakis named Sharon. She'd helped me with the land purchase and nearly cackled when I told her what happened. "She thinks an HOA can override property law," Sharon said. "Oh, honey, we're going to eat her for breakfast." That same day, I hand-delivered a cease and desist to the HOA's Dropbox and requested a full review of all recent board decisions involving our property. Karen's smug facade began to crack almost immediately. I heard from Randy that she was trying to convince the rest of the board it was a misunderstanding, that she was the one being harassed. She even claimed Logan must have wandered into the hunter's line of fire. That's when I released the footage. I uploaded the camera clip to the community Facebook group. Karen stapling the sign, opening the back gate, and waving in two men with rifles. There was no mistaking her grin, her gestures, or her complete disregard for the "no trespassing" signs right behind her. The post exploded. Over 200 comments in an hour. Most were from furious residents. "You let armed men onto someone's ranch? That boy could have been killed. You're done, Karen." By sunset, Karen's name was trending locally. Some genius had even photoshopped her onto a wanted poster with the title "Most Unwanted HOA President." But this wasn't just about public shaming anymore. The next week we went to court. Karen showed up with a lawyer from the HOA's general counsel, someone clearly not thrilled to be defending this circus. Logan sat beside me, dressed in his little blue button-up and boots, holding a framed photo of Peanut from the hospital. We didn't have to say much. The evidence spoke volumes. Security footage, witness statements, veterinary testimony, the unauthorized access sign. Even the judge looked visibly disgusted. Karen tried to explain that she didn't know the horse was out there and was told the land was part of a shared wildlife corridor. The judge raised an eyebrow. "By whom?" She floundered. I assumed. "Assumptions get people killed, Ms. Keller." In the end, the judge granted us a permanent no-compass order, fined the HOA for negligence, and ordered Karen removed from her role effective immediately. Logan squeezed my hand so tight I thought he'd break it. Justice wasn't complete, but it was a damn good start. When we got home, Peanut was standing in the paddock, bandages still wrapped tight, but tail wagging like a puppy. Logan ran to him, whispering things only they understood. I stayed back, arms crossed, watching the two of them under the golden evening sun. His ranch was scarred now, but stronger. So were we. Karen tried to bury us under her clipboard and power plays. Instead, she uncovered something much bigger: the resilience of a father, the courage of a kid, and a community tired of being bullied. Justice doesn't always show up wearing a badge or swinging a gavel. Sometimes it shows up in the sound of silence, the kind that falls over a neighborhood after the storm has passed and the tyrant has been dethroned. 2 weeks after the court ruling, Karen's house went up for sale. No open house, no farewell emails, no HOA newsletter tribute, just a quiet listing, a for sale sign half hidden by overgrown shrubs, and a moving truck that came and went in the middle of the night like she was skipping town. Nobody cried. Well, except maybe her next-door neighbor, who said she was glad to finally reclaim her front lawn from Karen's passive-aggressive aesthetic flyers. And the new HOA president? A retired firefighter named Mac. Straight shooter. One of the first things he did was pass a formal policy that required unanimous board and property owner consent before any shared land access could be considered. He even came by the ranch in person with a peace offering, an actual saddle for Peanut, engraved with "Local Hero." Logan nearly exploded with excitement. Peanut was recovering well. The little guy had gained weight, his fur was filling back in, and he'd started trotting again. The vet said he might never compete or do obstacle shows like before, but that didn't matter. To us, he was already a champion. Word spread fast. We started getting letters, real letters, from families across the county. Kids sent hand-drawn cards of Peanut wearing a superhero cape. A 5th grade class from a nearby school mailed us a collage titled, "Justice for Peanut." We hung it in the barn. One day, Logan turned to me while brushing Peanut and said, "Dad, I want to teach other kids how to train miniature horses, like I did." My throat tightened. "Then that's exactly what we'll do," I said. And we did. We turned the back pasture into a small training circle. Saturday mornings became Peanut school. Parents brought their kids. notepads in hand, wide-eyed as Logan showed them hand signals and trust-building exercises. Peanut, of course, loved every minute of the attention. I looked around one morning. Kids laughing, Peanut prancing, Logan grinning like he owned the world. And I realized something. Karen tried to destroy what made this place special. Instead, she made it stronger, more united, more watchful, more us. If you're still watching this, thank you. Thank you for riding out this storm with us. And if you've ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA president, a petty neighbor, or someone who thinks your property is their playground, just remember, keep your gates locked, your cameras rolling, and your lawyer on speed dial. Because sometimes the best justice is a small horse with a big following. Thanks for watching. If Peanut's story touched you, hit that like button. Share this video and subscribe for more true neighborhood dramas. And hey, drop a comment below. What's your worst Karen experience?